Nirvana Shatakam, composed by the great sage Adi Shankaracharya over 1,000 years ago, is a hymn that invites us to look deep within ourselves, far beyond our ordinary thoughts, identities, and daily concerns. To understand the profound message of the Nirvana Shatakam, it helps to approach it not as a scholarly puzzle, but as a gentle guide pointing us towards the truth of who we really are, something beyond our names, our bodies, our relationships, and even our happiness or sorrow. Imagine waking up early in the morning and, for a brief moment, forgetting your worries, your plans, and even your sense of I. In that quiet space, there is just pure awareness, no past, no future. This is the sort of effortless, natural state the Nirvana Shatakam invites us to explore, where we discover that our true self is not limited by the usual labels and stories we carry. The term nirvana in the title means freedom, release, or liberation. Shatakam means 6, as the hymn has 6 verses. Each verse, in simple yet powerful words, leads us by the hand through a process of gentle negation. Adi Shankaracharya does not teach us to acquire something new, but to let go layer by layer. We are not the mind. We are not our changing moods. We are not our bodies. We are not our achievements or failures. We are not even our deepest desires for wealth, love, or spiritual achievement. These verses, like a wise friend, remind us, all these things come and go, but what remains is a deep, unchanging presence, a kind of silent joy and awareness that cannot be taken away. In the first verse, the hymn starts simply, I am not the mind, not the intellect, not the ego, not even the memory stores. In daily life, we get caught in thoughts, opinions, likes, and dislikes, our never-ending to-do lists. But if we watch our thoughts for a few moments, we notice they flow like clouds in the sky. The real sky, clear and open, does not change when clouds pass by. In the same way, the verses teach us that our true self is not disturbed by the passing thoughts or emotions. We are like the sky, vast, open, and free. Shankara continues by removing identification with the senses. What we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch is part of experience, but not the one experiencing. Just as you are not your pair of glasses or your mobile phone, but the user, likewise, you are not your senses, but the silent presence behind them. The next verse goes even deeper. Here, Shankara says, I am not the breath nor the 5 winds, referencing the subtle energy systems recognized in yoga and Indian thought, nor am I made of the 7 materials like blood, bone, muscle, etc. that seemingly make up the body. He gently encourages us not to limit ourselves to what can be measured, weighed, or named, nor by the processes of the body. So, if you think of yourself as only your heart beating or your lungs breathing, or your body growing older, this hymn asks you to look deeper. Life, after all, is not just biology. There's a knowing, a consciousness, a simple being that is unchanged while everything else grows, changes, and fades. Then, in a powerful twist, the hymn asks us to let go even of our personal stories and attachments, likes and dislikes, pride and jealousy, success and failure. It says, in essence, you are not your victories or your mistakes. Imagine a child playing games, sometimes winning, sometimes losing, but once the game is done, the joy of simply being remains. The hymn tells us, our real self is untouched by fleeting gains and losses. For a moment, what if we let go of worrying about who likes us, or what we own, or whether we have accomplished enough? What if we understood, deep in our hearts, that our value is not attached to any of these passing things? This letting go is not a loss, but a freedom, the freedom to experience ourselves without limitation. Shankara also reminds us that we are beyond the 4 goals of worldly life that many people chase: duty, dharma, wealth or possessions, artha, desires, kama, and even the longing for spiritual liberation, moksha. This can seem puzzling. Aren't these the things we strive for? But Nirvana Shatakam asks us to realize that we are complete already. Just as the ocean is not made bigger by the waves, our essential self is not improved by running after goals, desires, or even the idea of being spiritual. Once Shankara, while still a young boy, was asked by a sage, "Who are you?" He did not give his name, his family, or his place in society, but instead answered with these 6 verses, pointing out that our real self does not have any of these labels attached to it. His reply was honest, childlike, but also deeply wise, showing that age or education is not required to realize your true nature, only sincerity and a little curiosity. The hymn moves on, declaring that we are neither good nor bad, neither happy nor sad, neither bound by rituals nor freed by scriptures. This is like saying, you are not attached to your school report card, or your job description, or anyone else's judgments about you. Life in modern times can often feel like a performance, always trying to meet expectations or worrying about failing. Nirvana Shatakam is a loving call to stop running, to rest, and to recognize the silent, joyful awareness that needs no approval. When Shankara says, "I am not the doer, nor the enjoyer, nor the object enjoyed," he points to a profound inner truth. In the game of life, we imagine ourselves as the actors, as the audience, and as the story, all rolled into one. But the presence that is watching, the witness behind all your experiences, is never caught up in the drama. It is peaceful and undisturbed. In daily life, we all experience suffering, loss, disappointment, anxiety about the future, regret about the past. The Nirvana Shatakam, without denying these difficulties, invites us to find an unshakable peace that underlies all of them. Like the deep, silent ocean beneath the choppy waves, our true self remains whole and serene, even when life feels wild on the surface. If we remember, for example, a time when we were young and full of worry about a test or an argument, years later we might see those events were temporary, but the sense of I am remains the same. The hymn teaches that quiet, unchanging I am, not your age, not your job, not your feelings, is your real self. One of the most liberating teachings of this hymn is the idea that our true nature is free of fear, even the greatest fear, death. The hymn says, "I am not afraid of death, because I am not the one who can die." We are not the body that grows old. We are the awareness watching the journey. If you have ever watched generations in a family, from babies to grandparents, you notice that while bodies change, there is something in the eyes, a living presence, that seems timeless. This is the presence Nirvana Shatakam talks about, a pure consciousness that is never born and never dies. This insight is not a dry belief, but a comfort and freedom that makes fear lessen and gratitude and compassion grow stronger in our daily lives. The hymn also gently points out that we are beyond all relationships and roles, friend or stranger, parent or child, teacher or student. In society, these roles are important. They help us to live and grow. But at the deepest level, these are just masks worn by a single presence. It is like many waves on the ocean, each with its own shape and journey, but all made of the same water. Similarly, the pure self in each person is the same, just expressing itself through different names and stories. Now, let us return to the rhythm and refrain of the hymn. At the end of every verse, Shankara affirms, I am Shiva, the form of awareness and bliss. In this context, Shiva does not refer to a distant god with a form, but to the pure, auspicious presence within us. Chidananda, or consciousness and bliss, paints a picture of this self as joyful awareness, unbreakable, steady, open, and light. It is like the warmth of the sun in winter, a presence that gives life to everything, yet is not bound or changed by anything it touches. It is important to notice that Nirvana Shatakam is not asking us to run away from life or to neglect our responsibilities. Rather, it encourages us to see through the masks of daily worries and to bring a deep calm and clarity to everything we do. Whether we are working, playing, loving, or grieving, this awareness remains the same. Sometimes, When faced with challenges, a difficult situation at work, or a misunderstanding with a loved one, we might react strongly, forgetful of our deeper nature. But if we pause, breathe, and remember for just a second that we are more than our thoughts or roles, then a soft sense of calm can enter even troubled times. Everyday examples bring this message alive. Imagine you spill a glass of water. For a moment you might be upset, but then that feeling passes and you move on. The spilled water didn't change who you are, it just came and went. Or take a child playing dress-up, wearing many different costumes. At the end of the game, she removes the masks and returns to herself, happy and free. Our identities, student, friend, parent, employee, are costumes we wear. Our true self is the one playing, not the costume itself. Another simple analogy is that of the screen in the cinema. Many movies appear on it: happy scenes, sad scenes, action, disaster, love stories, but the screen itself is unchanged no matter what is projected. The Nirvana Shatakam says we are like that screen, pure presence, while the events of life are just movies passing by. It is easy to get caught up in the movie, but every now and then, if we can notice the screen behind it all, a sense of peace can return. In the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, which was revitalized by Shankaracharya, the most important insight is called Non-Duality, the understanding that there is not a separate me and world, but that everything comes from the same source. The separations and differences we feel are part of the play, but the reality behind them is always united. Thus, the Nirvana Shatakam is more than a poem. It is a mirror that, if gazed into with stillness and honesty, shows us our own face, without any masks. In Shankaracharya's life, there are many stories of his clarity, courage, and deep compassion. Even as a young boy, he is said to have had a burning curiosity about the real meaning of life. His answers to questions were always simple, clear, and struck right at the heart. He traveled across India, debating with great thinkers, but his message was always, what you are looking for, the peace, love, and fulfillment, is not far away. It is your very own self, not hidden, not distant, just overlooked. If you have ever watched the gentle glow of a lamp in a quiet room, you might notice that the light is there, despite what is happening around it. Sometimes the room is noisy, sometimes quiet, but the lamp just shines without effort. Our true self, says the Nirvana Shatakam, is like that lamp, always present, unaffected by outer commotion. The secret is just to notice it, again and again, whenever we remember. You might wonder, how do we experience this truth in our own lives? It begins with simple reflection. Whenever you feel stressed, lost, or upset, try to pause and ask, who is feeling this? What is unchanged in me as all these feelings come and go? You might notice a quiet, spacious awareness, always there in the background. The more we notice this presence, the more we feel peace, kindness, and joy growing from within, no matter what problems or successes life brings. The benefits of this understanding, if practiced honestly, are immense. We begin to feel less trapped by little worries, less frightened of change, and more able to care for others with an open heart. Facing difficulties, we are not lost in panic. Facing pleasure, we are not obsessed with holding on. Life becomes like a river, constantly moving, but always fresh. We begin to realize again and again that happiness found outside is always temporary, but happiness that arises from knowing our true self lasts and grows every day. Nirvana Shatakam, then, is an invitation, a call to rediscover the sacredness of now, the freedom that lies in awareness itself. You do not have to change your religion, your family, or your job. You do not have to become a monk or renounce the world. You simply have to remember, as often as possible, that your real self is the silent witness, the joyful presence, the unchanging consciousness. Buddha called it nirvana, Shankara called it Shiva or Brahman, and you may call it peace, being, or just I. The name does not matter. What matters is the discovery, the unshakable joy and openness that comes from knowing yourself. As you walk through the day, perhaps try this simple practice. Take a slow breath and, just for a moment, let every label drop away. No name, no history, no future. Simply rest as awareness, as presence, as joy. Notice the peace that comes, however brief. With practice, this awareness will bloom, like a flower growing silently in the shade, offering its fragrance to all parts of your life. In the end, Nirvana Shatakam offers us not just words, but a doorway into the freedom that waits quietly within us all. It encourages us to look beyond the ever-changing surface of life and to discover an unbreakable spirit, pure, loving, and free. This is the promise at the heart of every spiritual path, that you are and always have been whole. That is the simple, shining miracle at the heart of Nirvana Shatakam.